Hey everybody, it's GoblinX, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Dominaria United. Without further ado, let's get into the pack 1 pick 1. We got some sweet options here. Honestly, all of the uncommons and our rare are incredible cards. We have the Haughty Djinn. This is at its best in a blue-red deck, but fits into any blue deck in the format. The way this set kind of works is each individual color has like one main mechanic, and all of the two color pairs involving that color have like different ways to utilize that mechanic or theme. So blue-red spells is the most obvious instant sorcery heavy deck, but blue-black runs a lot of counter spells and removal spells to run a bunch of instants and sorceries. Blue-white has a lot of like instant sorceries that create tokens and stuff like that. So every blue deck has tons of instants and sorceries, even if we're not blue-red specifically. So I think Haughty Djinn is just a really great mono-colored card. Now, reinforcements, Knight of Dusk's Shadow, Bortuk Bone Rattle, again, all these uncommons are fantastic for their respective decks, but I'm going to go with our sweet rare here with the Haughty Djinn. And again, with the whole each color having its own mechanic, blue as a whole, just even if you're mono blue, is about having a ton of instants and sorceries. One of blue's best commons is the Tolarian Terror. That's cheaper for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. So again, no matter what blue deck we play, we're going to run plenty of instants and sorceries, and the Haughty Djinn will be very powerful. For pick 2, we can easily just take the Great Blue Uncommon here. Just solid impact on the board for its mana cost. A relatively beefy creature with a great Enter's ability to stun something down. The ward can be relevant as well. Yep, pretty easy pick to go with our Djinn. For the other colors, mechanics are the things that they do just by themselves inherently. White is all about having a bunch of creatures on board, as you can see with cards like Charismatic Vanguard, but there's also cards that are cheaper for each creature on board and stuff like that. Green's all about domain. Black is all about self-mill. There's tons of graveyard recursion in black. And then red, I guess, is the least obvious of the mechanics. It's kind of just like aggro in general. So for pick 3 here, I like taking the Lightning Strike and going for blue-red spells. That's probably my favorite blue archetype, especially for a deck that's going to run cards like Haughty Djinn. But again, we're not like tied to having to do specifically that. I just don't think there's anything else that good in this pack, honestly. Lightning Strike or maybe like a Love Song of Night and Day for a flyer and a +1/+1 counter is fine. But I'm going to take the Lightning Strike here. Pick number 4, Talus Lookout, sticking heaviest to blue seems pretty reasonable. Miria's Outrider is one of red's best commons, but it's for a pretty specific archetype when it becomes that powerful. That is the Domain archetype. So if you're just running this in a blue-red deck, it'll be okay. You're going to get a 5-mana 4/4, shoot your opponent for 2 or 3 when it hits the board. But when you're in 5-color Domain and this thing just domes your opponent for 5 when it hits the board, that's when you're super happy, because that deck also can run Graveyard Recursion and Bounce and stuff to re-up that Enter the Battlefield effect and ping your opponent for another 5. So again, it would still be fine here in blue-red, but I'm not tied to red yet. I'm definitely tied to blue. I'm just going to take the very good blue common. Pick number 5. Pretty pack. Negate feels like a worse shore-up most of the time, because the vast majority of what you're going to counter with Negate is just removal spells that you can counter with shore-up for 1 mana. While Shore Up can also be used as a combat trick, so it's a little more flexible, so I'm not very high on Negate in the format. I am very high on Essence Scatter. I would be super happy to pick one here, but there's no Scatter as an option, and none of the off-color cards are powerful enough to really push me in their direction. And Picker is also pretty filler, so I think I'd rather take another blue spell than that, so that we don't tie ourselves to red just yet. So we'll just take the Negate. Pick 6, Shore Up. Apparently, I'm Get to Amplifier's biggest hater, because, like, I think it's fine. It's an okay filler card for the blue-red deck, but I do not draft it particularly highly. Problem is, a lot of the best spells in blue-red are counterspell style things, like Negate, Essence, Scatter, Shore Up, stuff like that, so you're just not casting that many spells during your own turn, so the body is rarely that relevant. The bounce ability is still good, but for 5 mana, it's kind of a lot. I'm not that high on Get to Amplifier. I would rather just take a Shore Up here and leave that secondary color more open. Pick number 7. I've seen a lot of Vine Shaper Prodigies, which is a solid value play. The only flaw I could see in taking a Vine Shaper Prodigy is basically every time I play a green deck, I want to end up playing 3+ colors and doing a bunch of domainy nonsense. It's not great to be a 3 or 4 color deck running double blue spells, and we have 3 double blue spells here. Also, playing green, that is like the one color that's actually just not going to work well with the Djinn. I could justify almost any other secondary color, but not really green with the Haughty Djinn. I'm just going to take a Haunting Figment here. Pick number 8. Alright, pick 8 Lightning Strike feels like a good enough signal towards red that we can just go for some blue-red shenanigans again. Don't mind that. Eerie Soul Tender's pretty great. I mean, it works really well with what Black's trying to do in the set. Filling that graveyard and picking stuff up from the graveyard. But still seems criminally late for Lightning Strike. And like a great reason to hop into that color. Take a random Geothermal Bog if we get some black kicker abilities or stuff to splash in. Because blue-red is not a great color pair for Molten Monstrosity. Pick 10. Not super excited about Academy Wall. It's an okay little card selection engine, but obviously the 0/5 body doesn't do too much. Pretty much always prefer to cut it. I'm going to take a Fire Nado here. Pick 11, grab a War Brute, and some nonsense as we move into... Ooh, alright, Goblin Picker is not nonsense. I will certainly pick the Picker. So... scratch that, we're not just picking up nonsense as we move into the next pack, we're actually getting a reasonable 2-drop. Oops, I'm trying to pick up Negate here. Stack all my non-creatures into a pile. Although, so generally how I look at my mana curve is I will sort out all the cards I'm always playing on that turn, like creatures. You always curve out with your creatures, and then put a pile of stuff I can play later, like removal spells I can play later. If you're a super spell-heavy deck, though, which we might be here, then it can still definitely be advantageous to check out the curve of your non-creature spells as well. It's just kind of how I default sort my decks, checking out the creature curve and then putting all the removal, all the non-creature cards into a big stack. See, look. Actually, Get To Amplifier's #1 fan. See, I'm going to take it. Obviously, I'll take a Get To Amplifier there. Who wouldn't? Pack 2, pick 1, Defiler of Instinct looks reasonable. Honestly, this is one of the weakest Defilers. It's not that exciting. 4 mana, 4/4 first strike. And whenever you cast a red spell, you do 1 damage to any target. I mean, it's pretty good. It's just that most of the other Defilers are very, very good. Like the green one, I think, puts like a +1/+1 counter on your whole board. Whenever you cast a green permanent, the blue one draws you a card every time you cast a blue card. I guess the black one's also kind of unexciting. It just gives like +1/+1 menace or something. But the white one spits out 1/1 soldiers every time. That is probably the second worst Defiler, but all the Defilers are good. It's just that most of them are really good. That one, not quite. Pack 2, pick 2, happy to take a Tolarian Terror here. We've been getting lightning strikes like pick 8 or pick 9, so I think we can get some pretty good spells later. I want to make sure that we have the excellent top-end creatures like Tolarian Terror. Good boss monster to top off your curve. And sometimes it's even just insanely cheap. It's not even topping off your curve. You're just playing it turn 4, the same turn you play a card draw spell or something. Here's another Tolarian Terror. We can also take a 3rd Lightning Strike. That would be great as well. But if we're super lucky, based on how the first pack went, maybe we get a pick 11 Lightning Strike. That feels impossible, but so does pick 11 Tolarian Terror. I don't think we're willing anything out of this, so I'm going to take my boss monster. Right, negate, an outrider. That's kind of it. I don't think I'm going to have room for outrider in this deck. We have 2 Tolarian Terrors, Frostfist Strider, Defiler of Instinct, Coalition Warbrute, and Talus Lookout for 4 mana or higher creatures. I don't really want too many more. Let's take another negate. Founding the Third Path is pretty cute, but even when I'm in a dedicated deck with tons of cheap spells, I don't find it that exciting. It's like a 2-for-1 you have to get pretty lucky to actually do the 2-for-1 with. Wait, it isn't even a 2-for-1. It's just a 1-for-1. Hold on. Card actually sucks. This is an easy impulse. Oh, I didn't draft it, so I don't get to keep reading it. It looked like it said, okay, so the first chapter on the saga is you can cast something that's already in your hand for free. So basically, the saga doesn't cost you any mana to play it, because the 2 mana you're spending on the saga is just the 2 mana you're getting to play your Lightning Strike for free. But that doesn't put you up a card. You're spending a card to play the card. So currently you're down a card right there. Then you mill 4, which doesn't do anything, and then you flashback 1 spell. So basically the only thing the card does is let you flashback 1 spell. That's the only bit of actual like card advantage it gives you, which is just a 1-for-1. Because again, it's not drawing you a spell that you cast for free, it's just playing something you've already drawn. It's just flashbacking 1 time, so it's not even like a draw 2. Just doesn't seem very exciting. I'm going to take this Essence Scatter here. I think it's a very high pick in the format. We definitely need to up that instant sorcery count quite a lot when we've got Haughty Djinn and Double Tolarian Terror and stuff like that. So as good as Frostfist Strider is, Essence Scatter fills a great hole in the deck. Pick 7. Poopy. Yep, Poopy. I'll take a flyer. Pick 8. Another random black source. Maybe we can splash a later Vohar. I don't think I can take a Vohar with 1 black duel right now. But Vohar is nice for an instant sorcery heavy deck like this. Those are certainly the options, the Aquifer, the Vohar. I'm just going to take an Aquifer and then end up never drafting a black spell anyway. That's just how I roll. Another Talus Lookout over Soaring Drake, is that reasonable? Curve purposes doesn't look great, but I feel like Talus Lookout is a much better card than the Soaring Drake anyway. And we have tons of instants to hold up on turn 3 if we don't draw into a creature. We're just holding up a Scatter or Negate or something. Just grab the Talus Lookout. There's a random Kavu. Here's a random Outrider. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so you cast something you already have, then you mill 4, then cast something from your grave. I guess you cast the card from your grave for free, so it's like a tempo play. You're going to cast something from your hand for the 2 mana that you spent on it. Then later you cast something from your grave for free. So it gives you like a mana discount. Probably not as bad as I'm saying, but it's just not exciting. Pack 3, pick 1. We actually have a black spell for these random black sources. That's Phyrexian Espionage, and it's one of the better cards to splash in, the kicker effects being the really good ones, because if you don't have one of your random black duels on board, you can still just spend 3 and draw 2, which is very reasonable for a deck like this that wants to cast a bunch of instants and sorceries. So worst case scenario, this spell still does something good for us, and best case scenario, we've got the kicker for it. So happy to take the Espionage. It's a great inclusion to the deck. Here's a Shore Up, and nothing else worth mentioning. Ooh, this is a bummer. We can't grab both of these cards, but they'd both be great. Lightning Strike for cheap removal, and Electrostatic Infantry for a build your own threat, a snowballing threat that gets bigger and bigger and bigger the longer the game goes on. We're on double Lightning Strike, 1 Fire NATO. I really don't love that, but God, do I love Electrostatic Infantry in this archetype. And we've got plenty of instant sorcery spells. I'm taking Infantry over Lightning Strike. I'm going to get crushed by some aggro decks because I don't have enough cheap removal. Pack's pretty bad. There's a Bog. An Amplifier. Take the Bog here. 5. Alright, beautiful. Battling Mystic. Top deck this in the late game and it draws you a fresh hand. Otherwise, it's just an evasive threat you cast early. Timely Interference also pretty good. And Shore Up. That was a really good pack in general. Alright, we got another Lightning Strike, luckily, since red Blue-red as a whole is just super open in this pod. Frostfist Strider and Lightning Strike still here. Sprouting Goblin for domain decks. This can tutor. Search out any of your non-basic lands, any of your dual lands specifically that have both the types. Card's absurd for domain decks. Wow, we get to cut so many cards here. Really handcraft the best build. Just probably cutting a lot of the filler creatures. Just keeping that instant sorcery count super high. Yeah, if I cut that stack, I still have 25 non-lands. I want at least 16 lands here. I say drop one of the Goblin Pickers. I technically have an amplifier for a different 2-drop that's probably slightly better than Goblin Picker here. I don't love double negate, double shore up. That seems a little overkill. They overlap a bit in a bad way. I actually might cut a negate then. Go 16 lands that way. Yeah, 2 shore up, 1 negate we'll go with for now. Hopefully find a better spell. Impede momentum. Yeah. This is like the one archetype I think you could justify impede momentum because it's a good tempo play. But I generally really don't like it. Okay, this is a beautiful pack. I think we need to take another spell like Phyrexian Espionage or Timely Interference here. I'll go for another Espionage. Huge card advantage stuff. Plus, I'm really tempted to with my triple black sources for the kicker. I want to utilize those as much as possible, as often as possible. Here's another Thrill I can play over into the negates. Here's another Amplifier. And that looks like where it's going to end for us. Probably all the playables. Don't make me do this. I mean, we have triple shore up, triple lightning strike. This will be a better amplifier deck than our last one. Because we can run, again, the triple shore up, plus the triple lightning strike so that we have some really reasonable spells to cast during our turn and actually get the extra damage. So I'll run them over the pickers, especially because I've got the double espionage, the impulse, and the double thrill for card draw. I don't need the late game mana flood prevention that the pickers provide. Three more cuts? I mean, a land for sure, as the terrors are ideally sometimes even 3 mana, but usually probably 4. Plus we have 3 2-mana draw spells that can dig for lands. 2 3-mana draw spells. Yeah, we're seeing more cards by turn 4 on average than most decks. So it's not like we need to have 4 lands in our top 11 cards. That would be your 7-card opener and your 4 draws. So instead of needing 4 lands in the top 11, because we have Thrill Possibilities and an Impulse and double Espionage, probably casting one of those most games. So it's like we need one in the top 12. Or the top 13 if we've cast a draw 2. But probably top 12 on average. Because we'll see 1 extra card on average. That accounts for games when we do cast one of these and games when we don't. Meets in the middle there, saying we see about 1 extra card in those first few turns on average. So yeah, I am going to do the 16 lands, and then we still have to cut 2 spells. Yes, we can cut a creature here. Maybe 2. I have to cut 1 Soaring Drake. And maybe a Fire NATO or a Thrill. I don't want to cut 2 non-creatures. We're at 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 12 is probably still a pretty good count for this kind of deck, so go 12 non-creatures. And what, 11 creatures then? Oh, 12 creatures because we're on 16. Honestly, generally, I think you want to be even more weighted towards the instants and sorceries than this, in this sort of archetype. But, I mean, the best non-creature spells we're putting back in are like Impede Momentum or Thrill of Possibility or Negate. I feel like those are low enough quality to just run the deck like this. Although we could drop an Amplifier. Now we'll keep the deck like this. We will double check the mana base, 14 blue spells and 10 red. We've got 8 blue sources, 8 red sources. I only have 1 double red card. I think I'm going to go for 9-7 split here then. Got a lot of double blue. And yeah, that now looks pretty great. We'll call it a deck here, hop into the gameplay, and see how it does. Alright, here we are on the play for game number 1. Got that Defiler of Instinct just for a giant first striking threat. We don't have a lot of red permanents in this deck, so I feel like the Defiler is even weaker in this deck than it is generally. But it's still a 4-mana 4/4 first strike, which is quite a beat stick that's very hard to block, especially in a deck with instant speed burn and combat tricks and stuff like Lightning Strike. Speaking of Lightning Strike, I'm definitely killing this Firebrand, which is going to give me some free extra damage from the Amplifier. The biggest argument for not doing this would be that theoretically if I cast another red permanent when Defiler is on board, I get to kill that for free. But that's not going to work if they kill my Defiler or if I just don't draw another red spell. Which we have no confirmation we're going to do. I would rather not have to cast a Shore Up to eat this Kavu. So I think it's worth not getting one quote-unquote free point of damage in if they don't block. Because the risk is actually there. If they do block, I'm forced to cast Shore Up, and then that's the only thing I get to cast this turn, which is really bad. So, while they're pretty unlikely to block there if I send the Amplifier in, it's way too bad for me if they do. Okay. Ooh, we drew a red permanent. I guess we could have killed Firebrand. For free. This only costs 1 mana, interestingly. I guess that means I can cast it kicked for 4 if I spend the 2. Might as well do that, run to their Essence Scatter, but then they're tapped out of doing tricks on blocks. Sure. Boop. No Essence Scatter. Alright. We'll see what instant they have here then. 4 mana. I don't remember any flash creatures in the set. And yeah, they just take it all. Not even burn. They just didn't have anything to do with their mana there. That's brutal. Firestorm, alright. You got me there, but I have 3-for-1 card advantage thanks to Phyrexian Espionage, so you don't just get a free win off the board wipe like you normally would in draft. We basically reset the game here. We're still pretty even, which is actually pretty good. Because generally, again, your opponent casts a board wipe on you, you lost on the spot. We're not in that position. Okay, it's gonna draw me a card. So still replace itself. Actually put me in the lead card advantage-wise by a tiny bit. Oh, and it doesn't matter because we get Mythic Planeswalkered. Dang. Brutal. Alright. Board wipe into Jaya. Now we're going to lose this one. Could top deck a Lightning Strike. I've got one more in the deck. Could also top deck Jaya's Fire NATO. That would be the funniest possible way to kill this Jaya. If I top deck a Lightning Strike, I'll cast both in one turn on Jaya. I'm not going to cast this right now on Jaya, because then if I don't hit the other one, then it's pretty relevant anyway. Yeah, I hold up one Shore Up or one Lightning Strike seems decent. Now I will have to Lightning Strike Jaya in order for a Fire NATO to kill her. If we top deck that.
You're no match for my students.
Yeah, I'm not gonna strike the Kavu, because I'll have to strike and Fire NATO to kill Jaya at this point. Which I do have the mana to do if I top deck it. But at this point, I mean, we're just too far behind. Planeswalkers do as Planeswalkers do. Scatter. We're moving on. We got Jaya. Here we are for game number 2 on the draw. We've got a mono blue hand here, but part of the power of Impulse is finding whatever you need in the top 4. So unless there is no mountain in the top like 6 or 7 cards, we can grab the red source from that, and sometimes you just find it immediately. I like striking this Root Walla before they can buff it. It's already going to be a 5/5 every time they buff. I'm just going to get that out of the way while they're tapped out. Don't have to worry about any Gaia's Gifts or anything that... The Gaia's Might, I think it's called, actually. Like +1,000,000/+1,000,000 thing. Interestingly here, I think we're on Impulse for a basic land, because we've got 3 5-mana plays, and a 4-drop here. Okay. Fortunately, a 4/4 reach is a pretty big roadblock for our 3/2 flyer. But if they attack with it, maybe we get to chip in. Cool. Well, not that cool, because that's not a land. Land 5 is going to put us in a real good spot with Strider and Double Amplifier. We can really slow our opponent down, especially because they're likely just casting a bunch of really big creatures, being a green deck. So the impact of bouncing something back to their hand and forcing them to recast it is pretty large. The higher mana value whatever you bounce is, the better. Unless it has like a really good enter effect. Oh, that is so fine. I will draw my land. Thank you very much. Oh! It's a tap land and I'd have to mill the Djinn. No, I'm going to draw the Djinn. I would probably take a basic over the Djinn, because it would guarantee a 5-drop this turn, but I'm not going to take a tap land over the Djinn. Okay. 3 cards in hand. They do have a blue source, but it would be surprising to see an Essence Scatter here, because blue looks like a splash. So I think I'm just going to stun for a moment here with Frostfist Strider. Cool. And now we have 7 power on board when I start bouncing, get a bunch of damage in that way. Still hold up a Shore Up. Pretty great. Wow. Looks like just flood from our opponent, like absolute flood. But I guess we'll find out real soon. If it is flood, they're gonna die in like 1 turn. Gross. Alright, they didn't really get to play any magic there. It's 1-1 heading into game 3. This hand's pretty unkeepable. Bunch of expensive blue cards and no red sources. And this is better, I guess. Get rid of a 4-drop? No, because I'm going to be drawing 2 off the espionage. That should find land 4. Yeah, this is awkward, but I don't think I can mulligan again. Alright, well, we hit all the mana we need. Okay, that's going to make it easier to kick an espionage later. I'm going to say we're drawing enough mana that we might just be kicking the espionage later, and especially if they give us an alternate play turn 3, where I can just spend my mana on the Mystic, then absolutely. That means turn 4 I play Lookout, turn 5 I kick the espionage. Another domain deck here. Green, black, blue, red so far. There's the Shadow Prophecy, dig 4 cards deep, put the best 2 into their hand, the rest into the graveyard. Shadow Prophecy, a fantastic draw spell for domain. Just digs really far for whatever you need. And it's a little late to say it now, but apologies for the audio. The dishwasher is going on right now. Usually I avoid doing this, running dishwashers or washer and dryer during a recording session, but I have just been insanely busy past couple weeks, so I gotta multitask. Battlebane Mystic. Would have loved to see them kick that, but obviously that's not something they'd really want to do right now. Yeah, just bounce it back if they don't have a scatter. Jam damage here. That feels reasonable. And if they do have a scatter, they're countering a pretty poopy card. Let's go. Free reign for Tolarian Terror. Ooh, surprising trade. I prefer that over the Mystic for Mystic trade because I like drawing cards. Alright, that's pretty nasty. Gain a bunch of life, get a 2-for-1 with Urborg Repossession. Lightning strikes the draw. Nah, let's put some power on the board instead. Was this the set when stun counters were made? For some reason I remember this just not doing the stun counter thing. I remember this being like just a tap and it doesn't untap next turn. But I guess maybe this is when stun counters came out. Ugh, Micromancer's disgusting in 5-color because there's enough little kicker 1-drops that you can usually have a removal spell. But it's also great with Urborg Repossession. Card is ridiculous value. 0-4 Haughty Djinn, but then I can cast a Lightning Strike for just 1. So I could Lightning Strike and Shore Up alongside it. They've got a 1 and a blue up, though. I swear, if they have another Scatter in this 5-color deck, I will not be happy. Well, combat first. That could get them to spend mana on something else. Okay, beautiful. Now we know they don't have a Scatter. Also, I can just do this, but then I'm not protecting the Djinn, but probably fine. Gets more damage in right now, and on future swings. They have nothing in their grave for this Urborg repossession, at least. Which is pretty good for me. Rexian Espionage unkicked. Digging for some cards that affect the board, I imagine. There's a Scry. To the bottom. I would love to see them tap out, so I know exactly what I'm playing around here. Bunch of open mana always makes me nervous. Because then we'll have lines where it's like, well, I could try to attempt lethal here, but if they have instant speed removal, it's disastrous. Stuff like that. Okay, they've pretty much tapped out here to kill the Haughty Djinn. So at that point, Lightning Strike on Mystic over Lightning Strike on Micromancer feels like it makes sense. They have to chump with Micromancer and just take the 2 in the sky. Yeah. And definitely on one of those instead of their face. Because by shooting the Mystic, I am clearing out a blocker and hitting them for an extra 2. So I'm hitting for 1 less damage than Lightning Strike would have. But I'm also getting a creature off the board. It's going to be Shore Up to trade into the 4/4. Oh, just timely to stop 1 damage. Sure. Looks good. I think I need to play to the board still. So here's Tolarian Terror. Do I play around them kicking an Espionage? They can't afford to kick an Espionage. I'm going to play a tapped Aquifer. They're facing way too much power on the board to spend 5 mana on card draw. If they have another Espionage, they'll play it unkicked. Vortuck Bone Rattle, that is phenomenal for stabilizing like this. Broke card is broken. It's also ridiculous with Urborg repossession. Oh my god. It's gonna reanimate a Micromancer. Then when the Bone Rattle dies, they get to repossession the Bone Rattle, which can then reanimate another Micromancer or something. Ooh, that Bone Rattle's frustrating. They have the Shore Up to stop the Fire NATO here. I feel like I have to unkick cast this Espionage because I already had on cards anyway. I probably have something expendable. If nothing else, just discard a permanent. There's only 3 swings to kill them in the sky here. I guess 4 because the repossession is going to gain them more life. Yeah, we're just looking for more threats. That's not exactly what I was looking for, but not nothing. They can theoretically have Bone Rattle block the Frostfist Strider and then Shore Up. But they kind of want the Bone Rattle to die for Urborg repossession. I actually just don't even think I attack on the ground right now. Save this land for a kicked Espionage or a Thrill of Possibility. Maybe we'll get them to just repossess a Mystic and that's it. Oof. Double Micromancer. They ran out. Good. They've played a lot of one-drop spells, to be fair. Interference, 2 repossessions, and a shore up. Another Battling Mystic. Why do you have a whole blue-red deck in the middle of your domain deck? Those are my cards. So freaking rude. Shore up, repossession. More enough for them to be stable here. At least now I know when they bone rattle something back, they're not getting another Micromancer trigger or anything. They're just getting a 2/1 flyer. Guess we send in the squad. No, they have like so good blocks here. So trade here. Double block here. Tellurian Terror just kills a single 3/3. And then trade there. And they bone rattle back a Mystic. They have a 3/3, a Mystic, a bone rattle, and I have a single 1/2. We just can't attack, but I also can't shore up. Or we can't fire NATO because it gets shore upped. I guess I could. It does buff the infantry at least. Gets rid of the shore up for later. Cool. Top deck war commences. Like, they don't have any pressure on me, but I don't have any pressure on them. But they're 4 and I'm at 20, so that is something. Okay, they're just going to immediately pick up the other Mystic to draw 2. And that does put them ahead in cards, but now we know they don't get to do repossession nonsense with Bone Rattle. So as soon as we find basically any trick, we should have pretty good attacks on board. Niall, they're down to 11 cards in deck, but Niall is a big booty blocker, which is frustrating. Not a trick. Not a trick at all. So Terror just trades into a 3/3 still. 4/4 for 4/4, 5/5 for 3/3. This just dies. And this just dies. Yeah, we don't have attacks. Double repossession bone rattle was just too strong. They don't have full domain, do they? No. So they don't draw a card here, they just put 1 on top. Bottom 10 cards. So what are we looking for here? Phyrexian Espionage, Thrill of Possibility. Probably not Amplifier, right? It's gonna actually work too well. I guess we know that Micromancer... This isn't bad, because we know that Micromancer has no more 1-drops in the deck, so we can bounce a Micromancer. And then they can't do the double block the Terror thing. And they could block Terror with a 4/4 and a 3/3. And then I kill the 4/4, but it's not going to trade down into a... really tiny creature anymore. That all looks great. No, is your last card relevant too? Both the draws off the Mystic? Yep. Okay, not too bad though. Just that removal spell. Well, we're still in the top deck war, but they get to select a card out of the top 4 every turn as their next draw. I'm pretty soon they've seen everything. Oh, they picked a white source though, so that they get to immediately draw off of Niall. Yeah, that's probably the killer here. Now they get to just dump the card in hand every time they hit us. Yep, take Kaiser, draw a card. 7 cards in their deck. They hit us 7 more times. Do they have to draw the card? They have to draw the card every time they hit us. They might mill out. Honestly. Hello there. Is Amplifier actually goated? We were lying the whole time. Actually, just a great card. I don't know, it did a lot of damage. Poke us, draw the best card in the top 5. At this point, they've seen all the cards. They're on the bottom 5 now. So they just pick a card every turn. So, I mean, if we win this game, we managed to run their entire deck out of gas. Like, they got to draw the whole deck and then we still get there, would be insane. Okay, yeah, I can't do anything with 2 islands. Go ahead, opponent. Still looking for Thrill of Possibility for Phyrexian Espionage mainly. Feels bold, but we'll see. They know what's in their decks. They know if they have something to deal with infantry or block the infantry. At this point, they've seen all the cards that are left. Well, that draw sucks. And I don't lethal them with an attack, which means I would hit for 3, take 7, go to 3. Just die in 2 turns anyway. I think I have to block, which sucks so bad. Block, take 2. I'm at 8. Take it again. I'm at 3. I can't miss again. I can't keep hitting lands here. Or I do lose before they mill. Because, yeah, they can just stop attacking with Niall. I think I need to not die to Amiria's Outrider at this point. No! Dude! Really? Oh my god. You got me, I guess. What can you do? What can you do? That game was so winnable. We just hit the biggest clump in the end. What a bummer of an ending. Literally empty library. If we had just a minuscule hair of action in the end, they would have milled out. That's rough. All right. So be it. I think it's still a really good showing for this deck. I think it goes to show how strong the deck is, that even through Bortuk double repossession, we almost got them to mill out. We just got some unlucky draws there in the end. So again, I still love this deck, still think it's super powerful, but we start off with a 1-2 record, and we might be out of here with a low win rate run with a real good deck, which is always brutal. Certainly does not help having to mulligan in multiple of these games with our mono-colored hands like this. All right. Yeah, this hand is awkward too, but I can't mulligan with both colors. Get rid of Fire NATO. Green, black from our opponent so far. Looks pretty domainy if they're going to start with a Vine Wall. Miss? Oof, that hurts. Opponent had 0 lands in their top 6. But they had natural 3-color and Weatherseed Treaty to grab the 4th anyway. Oh, they don't have 4 colors. Just grab another swamp there. They're just Jund. Interesting. Raids is very good on this board with just a 0-2 Vine Wall and a token to sack to her ability. She was going to be ridiculous. Time to take a big hit from the Sapperling. Dome me in the face for 5. Ouch. Snare Spinner's super fine. We trade with a Snare Spinner, we end up a card. Speaking of things that are fine, Electrostatic Infantry I kind of want to cast before the Espionage. Bounce Snare Spinner just to hit them for 2 more damage, but it's not that exciting. I just play an infantry and pass. Full greeting the Espionage for a kick. Keeping the amplifier for when they play a scary creature. Yeah, we just play it nice and slow. We're taking no damage on board if I just sit here and pass for now, so we'll maximize the value of these cards rather than being mana efficient right now. Impulse is pretty cool, but I'm pretty sure we're on Espionage right now. Shore Up Terror, no lands is a little rough, but probably for the best in the long run. Means we've got a lot of spells to work with. Bite down my infantry. If I hit a land with this Shore Up. Ripperoo. Slam Dunk Trade. As soon as they figure out how Enlist works. Oh, no Enlist. Sure. Still a 2-for-1 trade in my favor. My Lookout trades into their Combat Trick and draws me a card. They got any 1 toughness cards? Yeah, they got a Sapperling, so this is going to be pretty good. Take Defiler. Might take a little while to get to it off just 1 red source for now, but I have plenty of immediately castable cards first. Can Impulse and still play a Terror. But I think I'm going to hold up a Shore Up instead. And I couldn't hold up a Shore Up if I played an Impulse. They're just done. 1/5/5 is enough. They are tired of the nonsense. And we are 2-2. Alright, Arena. A 9-7 split should not be drawing this many mono-colored hands. I'm about to call shenanigans. We might be playing one of these amplifiers pre-Defiler. If they don't do anything, maybe not. Blue-black's one of the slowest archetypes, too. Super controlling. So we can have time to just sit here. Yeah, they're just going to play a 0-5? Sure. No! That's not a mountain. Well, Lookout can dig. Unless they scatter it, and then I cry. I don't really have any bait for the scatter, though. There's no way they're going to scatter an amplifier, especially unkicked. Yeah, we have no other line. Unless I just want to pass. And wait for another land to kick an amplifier and see if a kicked amplifier gets scattered. It does not feel right to run out the Lookout against 4 open mana and triple blue. Okay, cool. Start kicking amplifiers. We just go from weakest to strongest spell here. Amplifier, amplifier, Lookout, Defiler. I guess I don't get any Defiler triggers to ping them for 1, but they have no 1 toughness cards on board, so that's all it's going to do, is ping them for 1. If nothing else, this forces them to tap 3 of their mana and have less up for a counter. Beautiful. Frostfist Strider is not a counter spell. That is just tapping out here, so we know we can resolve Defiler. And I get to hold up Shore Up or Lightning Strike here, which is lovely. My next amplifier is 1 cheaper. And the first strike means that the Defiler is the best creature on board. It's the biggest creature on board. It eats up that Frostfist Strider for free. There's the wall. Defiler triggers even if my card gets countered, right? Yeah, it's when I cast it, so I can just attack with Defiler and then Amplifier to finish off the wall post-combat. Ooh. I like that Espionage for later, but for now I don't think I'm doing anything with it. No blocks at all. Sadness on the stack. Okay, Essence Scatter is better and more popular than Negate. So, it feels reasonable to go for an Espionage here over playing a creature. And then I might even hit a land to play a creature too. I guess I don't have the mana to kick the Espionage, which is a slight sadness, but still worth. Cool. Oh, that Djinn is not gonna resolve, so I'm gonna pass. Yep, there's the Impulse, lets them hold up the counters all day long. I mean, maybe it would resolve, but again, we're under like no pressure. We're in the lead on board, and we have several other good threats to play, where if they counter it, it's like, all right, fine. I mean, maybe Djinn's actually just worth throwing out as the counter bait, because these are 3 power, right? So they're as big as the Djinn's gonna be. It's 1 power right now. Once we cast Strike and Shore Up, it's gonna be 3 power. Maybe it's actually worth just running out as the bait. Probably not right now. Not worth not holding up Shore Up to protect Defiler. But maybe we're playing Djinn before the Lookouts. I don't know. I guess it depends on like the mana efficiency we've got going on and everything as well. Shield Wall Sentinel. Show me a Wingmantle Chaplain, and I will concede on the spot, even though you have no white sources. Oh, it's just for Academy Wall. Okay, that's super fair. Lookout, I still get to hold up a Shore Up and a Lightning Strike after playing a Lookout. I guess I still wait for post-combat, that way I have the option of playing Amplifier to finish off the wall. Alright, I have to spend double blue. I'm a doofus. I'm over here trying to tap 3 red for this. To hold up double blue. Okay, that counters literally anything, so... not bad. To get it out of the way. Guess I'll 2-3 with a great deck then. Cruelty of Gix is one of the strongest rares in the format. It's a massive 3-for-1. They make me discard my best creature, then they get the best card in their whole deck into their hand, then they get the best creature from a grave onto their board. It is nigh unbeatable, and it is certainly unbeatable for this hand. Still have 2 mana up after this. Probably have the scatter though. Oh, we've gotten 1 counterspell out of the way. Oh, maybe not. They have the shore up. Shore up would be pretty filthy here. I guess I have to hold up my own shore up instead of striking the Sentinel. So that if they shore up the Frostfist Strider, then I shore up the Defiler. Timely interference? Sure. That's not as bad. Put them to 5, then they lose 3. Certainly something. I have 1 red spell to shoot them for another 1. I guess I've tapped out a shore up this way. So they could end up killing the Defiler here. How many lightning strikes have I played this game? 1? There's 2 lightning strikes in the deck. If I can find a lightning strike, I can kill them. Pilfer, so get rid of the amplifier here, since it shoots them for 1. If they're not killing Defiler right now. They're probably killing Defiler right now then. Battlefly Swarm, Tolarian Terror. That is not killing Defiler then. If Amplifier could bounce our own creature, they would be dead on board. So we have Electrostatic Infantry and Amplifier and 2 Lightning Strikes. That would all be lethal top decks if I ping their face instead of the Battlefly Swarm. I have 8 mana total. I can spend 7 on an Amplifier plus kicking it to bounce the Terror and still have a shore up held up here. So I don't even have to spend the 2 life. Yeah, 1, 2 plus 1, 2, 3 plus 1, 2. Oh, that was the... Oh my god, dude. I hate Magic Arena. Oh. Oh my god, I clicked the wrong thing. Oh my god, dude. Obviously, we wanted to bounce the terror and ping the face, but I clicked the terror first, assuming I was on the bounce. So now they're not dead to any red cards off the top. And they have a board. They were going to be forced into a Defiler Chump and a Frostfist Strider trade. Now we have much less time to draw into a Lightning Strike. Aye. Yeah, that's just one of those things when you're playing Paper Magic, you just say, yeah, Amplifier targeting the terror, Defiler targeting your face. Way easier to mess up on Arena. Alright, well, they are certainly dead to Lightning Strike at least. But that ain't that. I actually only have like one draw step now. Their board is so wide to find a Lightning Strike. But it could be either of 2 Lightning Strikes. I still have an Espionage and a Thrill of Possibility and an Impulse and a Battling Mystic. So we have like 5 draw spells and 2 Lightning Strikes that are 7 cards that could maybe get us there. 2 of which 100% get us there. So 2 definite lethals and 5 that dig for the lethal. Unless, I mean, they're playing off the top. They just top deck this, so unless that's a counter. Here we go. If it's any consolation, they'd still be at 1 life right now. Which means even if I click to the right buttons here, we die. Yeah. Alright, well. Clicked the wrong buttons, but flooded out anyway. If we clicked the right buttons, they'd be at 1 life, and they would have had to have... no. If we clicked the right buttons, they would have been at 1 life, and then they would have had to... I wouldn't have been able to attack with the Amplifier as well. It would have just been these 2. So Frostfist would have traded with Frostfist or Battlefly Swarm, and Defiler would have first strike killed something. So, I mean, really the only difference is they wouldn't have a Swarm or a Sentinel. And they'd be at 1 instead of 2. So 1 life instead of 2, no Swarm, no Sentinel. But that didn't impact the game at all, because then, even without the Swarm and the Sentinel, had they, you know, recast Terror, get this Djinn down, we couldn't have attacked in anyway. We still just die with the Flood. They're just at 1 life, so I have more outs. It was obviously a misclick punt. Like, it was not good. It was by far the wrong play, but the maximum it would have impacted the game was maybe we could have gotten 1 more draw step, because maybe the mana that it cost for them to recast Terror would have been too slow that they wouldn't have hit me with Djinn by then. But I mean, they had a million mana open this turn. I don't even think they spent all their mana last turn, and they didn't attack with Jin for a few turns in a row anyway, so I don't think it would have even changed the amount of damage we took at all, because these both still would have been there. It's just they would have played the Jin a turn later, but again, they didn't attack with Jin the turn that it lost Summoning Sickness, I don't think. We still could have died just as fast and had no way to kill them, so. Again, big punts there, but Massive Flood prevents this deck from getting a record I think that it would hit on average. I think this deck is really strong and probably around a 5-3 or 6-3 on average, but we really got the short end of the stick today, which is a huge bummer. That was 2 losses due to some flood in a row. And I don't remember the first loss. My memory is abysmal. But yeah, again, another look at the deck. I think it's fantastic. The double terror, triple lightning strike, the infantry to go with everything. The lookouts are great. The amplifiers are flexible. Still not the biggest amplifier fan, but I like the espionages with the abilities to kick them. Could have used like another scatter over a fire NATO. I think that would have improved this deck quite a bit. But honestly, this deck is really close to like the best kind of blue-red decks you're gonna see. It's just missing like one mythic uncommon for the archetype, like one Balmor or something. Could push it over the edge, or another bomb rare or something. Oh, I remember the first loss now. Yeah, we just got completely hosed today. Our first loss was they board wiped us. We were still in the game and actually able to maybe get slightly ahead in card advantage post board wipe, but then they dropped a Planeswalker post board wipe, so I was like, all right, well, ripperoo. Yeah, this deck really got pooped on by some variants here. Lots of lands and some incredibly powerful stuff from our opponents. Is what it is. 2 and 3 for a deck that I think is honestly even stronger than our first blue-red deck, the one that actually did get a 7-1 run. So, pretty bummer of an outcome there, but that's Magic, baby. That is going to be 250 gems and 2 packs for the prize out today. But that's going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.